This is The Good Government Show.
Housing is the reason why I'm mayor. It's why I ran for mayor. It's why I do this job. I tell my constituents often, I'll pick up your garbage once a week in exchange for the opportunity to work on housing issues. And they've kindly taken me up on that offer. Typically, the pushback are from folks that fear change. And I personally, I understand. I'm not a huge fan of change myself. I like my routine. I like my habits. We'll put up or shut up. Go over ahead and do this volunteer. I loved it. And next thing you know, I'm running for city council and then I'm the mayor. You don't have to run for office to have an impact on good government. I like the idea of a framework of a politician as a social worker better than one as a litigator, right? Because it's less about arguing, it's more about problem solving. You know, a lot of young people are always like, well, how do you become the mayor? And my answer is you do the two things your mom told you never to do. Knock on a stranger's doors and ask strangers for money. You know, it's not pleasant stuff.
Welcome to The Good Government Show. My guest today comes from one of the best places in the USA, San Diego. This California city consistently gets rated as having some of the best weather in the nation. My guest, Mayor Todd Gloria, says he won the geographic lottery by being a native San Diegan. He's been mayor since winning the seat in 2020 after serving on the California State Assembly and on the San Diego City Council. Being a city on the Mexican border gives Mayor Gloria a very personal and up-close view of the immigration issue. He says what you might see on cable TV news is not what's happening in the city. And bear in mind, downtown San Diego to Tijuana, Mexico is only about 20 miles. He says comprehensive border reform is needed. But he says it's not all chaos. And he mentioned a recent trip he took with some 60 other mayors where he showed them one of the nation's busiest border crossings. He said the mayors remarked to him about how orderly the entire process was. His experience in dealing with border crossings and immigration is worth listening to. While different parts of the border have their own unique challenges, Mayor Gloria deals with this issue on a daily basis. He added that having Mexico and Tijuana as neighbors is an asset for the city of San Diego. But the conversation wasn't all weather and immigration. We discussed sports, a conversion of a former sports stadium into housing and parklands. We talked about the homeless problem in San Diego, and he explained a good government program called Park Safe. This is an area where many working poor people who can't afford a home live safely in their cars. And the mayor talks about how he's moving forward on gun violence prevention. Now, let's take a trip to San Diego, California. It's beautiful for sure, and there's a lot going on, and the mayor is working for good government in one of the best places in America. And, you know, I mean best if you like warm weather year-round, surfing, or just sitting in a chair looking out over the Pacific Ocean from the beach, or checking out a fantastic destination hotel at the Del Coronado, or eating great Mexican food. Anyway, all those things are happening in San Diego, and that's coming up after the break. The Good Government Show is sponsored by Ourco. That means our community. Ourco has found a way to make government more effective. Ourco provides the OUR platform, and this is an app that blends in-person and digital interactions to connect people with their government, their county, their town, their state. The Ourco app transforms meaningful conversations into reliable data. They can turn results into projects and programs the community has essentially already approved. It's sort of like a flash poll by phone, but without the call and in real time and wherever community members are. Maybe they're at their house or their office or where they're out just talking about local issues. Maybe the choice is between putting in more local buses or expanding the bike lanes. Ourco can get you an answer immediately. With OUR, you can engage your citizens or any group, learn what they want, and build programs and policies that advance your county, your job creators, your constituents. So visit Ourco.com, that's OURCO.com, and learn how they do it. And while you're there, book a demonstration. Welcome to the Good Government Show. I am happy to have with me the mayor of San Diego, California, Mayor Todd Gloria. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, I've been to San Diego a few times. I think I've read this more than one place. San Diego has the best weather in America. Is that true?
I'm required to say that, but I think data backs that up too. We are a beautiful city with great weather.
A beautiful city with great. It never gets way too hot. It never gets way too cool. The breeze is always good, and you've got a beach.
We've got a beach. We've got a great border community. We got a lot going on for us. I feel incredibly lucky to lead my hometown. I was born there. I like to say I won the geographic lottery when I was born at Scripps Hospital in La Jolla.
And how are things at the Del?
It's beautiful. They've actually had some modernization. It's worth checking out.
The Hotel del Coronado.
Yeah.
One of the beautiful hotels in America, certainly.
Listen, Marilyn Monroe can't be wrong, right?
No,
This side of Some Like It Hot.
How often do you get there? Are you able to have events there?
Oh my God, yeah. Listen, I'm a politician. I do the rubber chicken circuit. I hit every hotel, ballroom all the time, and that's definitely one of the nice ones.
That's the one I would go back to again and again. I had a day there. And I got a bike and just rode all around that whole area, the Del Coronado Peninsula there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful town.
Stopped into the bar and had a couple of drinks at the beach bar and then went into the whole thing. Just a beautiful spot. As beautiful as San Diego is, I'm sure there are a few problems.
Oh, yeah.
You are a border city. You are on the border with Mexico. Certainly, we've learned a lot about immigration and border policy. How are things in San Diego? How are things on the border? Is it what we hear?
No. And in fact, I hosted the U.S. Conference of Mayors fall meeting in San Diego at the Hotel Del.
Nice. Well done.
In order to show my fellow mayors, over 60 of them who traveled to my town to see it for themselves. And what was universal was that what people see about the border on cable news is not the reality. Now, do we have challenges? Yes. I can tell you there's a lot of challenges. But what most people think of when they see the border is not my lived experience as someone that lives on the U.S.-Mexican border. We definitely need change. We need more resources to support the folks who work along the border. We need comprehensive immigration reform. But we have a border situation that is not what people think, and I was glad to be able to show that to my colleagues.
Sometimes you might get the impression, especially if you're listening to one side, that it's just a mass of criminals and worse racing across the border, trying to get into America to commit crimes. That's not the case.
No. Listen, there are a lot of folks crossing all the time. Right. It has a lot more attention right now, in part because the numbers are up, but also because we're in a presidential election year, and this is fodder for that. But I can remember a time in my city when what you described was probably more what was happening.
Okay.
Fast forward to today, what you have are generally families walking across in the rural areas and surrendering directly to Border Patrol and seeking asylum, and they're doing that because our legal processes of applying for a visa or sort of petitioning for permanent status is so cumbersome and difficult that they don't feel as though they have any other option. That's the pull factor. The push factor is back home. There's a lot of challenges in their home country. So point is that currently we're having a lot of folks who are appearing on our southern border seeking asylum, but those numbers are down from where they were not that long ago.
Okay.
And it is more orderly than what people expect. What the 60 some odd mayors that I took down to the San Ysidro port of entry were stunned at how orderly it is. That you have incredible Customs and Border Protection officers who are able to have a sixth sense, right? They're calling out cars and saying that into secondary and finding stuff because they're there every single darn day. And while they may find those individuals, to your point before, those are few and far between. The vast majority of people are crossing for legal purposes, to travel, to come work legally in the United States, to live in Mexico because the cost of living there is less.
Sure.
It is a very functional environment. And the bottom line I would want to say on this, the border is an asset to my city. It is a distinguishing characteristic in a global economy where cities compete with one another. I don't compete against LA. I compete against every other city on the face of the planet because we're an interconnected world. Having Tijuana just on the other side of our border, being able to have the intellectual and design and computing capacity that I have on my side with their manufacturing capacity makes us unbeatable. So as a mayor, I'm thrilled to be a border mayor, and it is an asset. It's not a liability.
So I interviewed a county commissioner in Arizona on the border and in El Paso, Texas on the border. And all three of you are saying the same thing. It's not that bad. Don't believe what you hear. Don't believe what you see. These are border communities, and we're used to this. Yeah.
Well, I love you allowing us that opportunity to share that with people, because I think when you start dispelling myths, you can start focusing on what the real needs are. And the real needs are that we need to have a functional legal path for folks to come here, either temporarily or permanently. But the challenges that are happening there are largely a choice of policy, and we need Congress to take action.
I know that Southern California used to, and I've done this myself, just jump over the border and go to Ensenada or Rosarita. Is that still as popular as it used to be? No. I think that's one of the things that is sad. I talked to my father who, as a child, there would be day trips. It'd be very easy to go down, get your hair cut, like have a meal, just kind of pop down.
That's not really possible any longer because...
Go to Papa's and Beers?
Exactly. So the challenge though is that if you want to enter the United States now, it is highly uncertain how long it'll take. So it could be an hour or 2, it could be 4 or 5. So when that's the situation, you're not going to pop down there just for a quick visit to run a quick errand. So it has actually kind of made it a little harder for us to have the connections that we have. Don't get me wrong, plenty of people cross the border every single day. In fact, the San Ysidro port of entry in my city is the busiest border crossing in the Western Hemisphere. That said, casual trips become sort of eliminated because of the lengthiness of the waits to cross into the United States. So it really just means that there are essential trips. Going home, going to see family, going to a medical appointment. And
what's lost in that is Americans going down to Ensenada for, great seafood for the day and making a day of it. And, it's a 1-hour trip. Well, that's gone.
It happens, but I think what I think would be more accurate to say. But that's a loss,
isn't it? I mean, that's a loss for everybody.
Absolutely. What's the loss is the lack of mutual understanding. Okay. That sort of human interaction that sees us not just as customers, but as neighbors, as friends, right?
Did you have that pass, the daily pass?
I do.
Yeah.
It's a Century Pass. Maybe your listeners aren't familiar, but that can help expedite crossing in a more predictable fashion. But it's a reserved benefit. You undergo extensive background checks. And even then, you can still end up with a lengthy wait in the line that, again, when you're sort of balancing out your day, if you just have an afternoon, you're not going to roll the dice on that.
All right. Well, thank you for that perspective. I think it's very important as a border mayor on a border town to, sort of counterbalance what some of the rhetoric is. And it can't help.
I think it's intentionally not help. They intend it not to help.
Right.
I think they intend that rhetoric to make people fearful of other nationalities, forget where perhaps their family may even come from, and really to make sure that we stymie good policy that would allow us to have a more functional immigration system that would work better for our country.
All right, so let's talk about something even more important than immigration, baseball. I'm a Yankee fan. Thanks for Juan Soto.
It hurts.
How are the Padres doing?
Not so good at the moment, but there's still
Sadly,
time.
Sadly, you've got the Dodgers, so that's going to be a tough match every time.
So, listen, we were in the playoffs only 2 years ago.
Yes.
We have good years, we have bad. We've got plenty of time to do better this season.
Okay.
But even if we're unsuccessful, which I predict we can still do good things this season.
You still got a good core.
We still got a good core.
Okay.
But you're still playing at Petco Park, which is not the mayor's opinion, but USA Today's opinion, the best ballpark in America. I think that's 100% right.
Have you been to the Bronx? Come on.
So there are historical ballparks. I get that part of it.
It's not as historical as it used to be.
But I mean, there's legacy stuff. So I recognize that we don't have that long legacy. But you also don't have fish tacos and world-class craft beer at other...
We got Italian sausages.
Yeah, well... and you don't have the weather.
No, we don't have the weather. We do not have the weather.
And the environment that we're in, what we used to play in the Mission Valley part of our city, which was the only thing that was sort of out there, was in this sort of a sea of an asphalt. Now you have it right in our downtown. It is an incredible experience. People, I think it's no exaggeration. They take the whole day off, right? They just make a day of it going down there, and downtown is vibrant and it's alive and it brings so much energy. That was not the case when I was growing up. That was not our experience. And so back to this point about human connection,
right?
Much like we were discussing with the border a moment ago, this has helped the Padres. Like, I have seen so much more affinity for the team because it's not just about the 9 innings on the ball field. It's about the experiences in the restaurants and in the bars all around the ballpark. And, you go downtown on a game day, I mean, people are all decked out. It is an experience, and I couldn't be prouder of what the Padres do. They're an incredible partner. I'd like to see a few more wins on the board, but those can still come.
You're the mayor. Have you been invited to throw out the first pitch ever?
I have. Yeah,
and how'd you do?
I did not do it.
You didn't do it?
So here's the thing.
Oh, this ought to be good.
Well, I don't know about all that, but so know your limitations.
Okay.
And I know that I will not be good at that. So there's no need for me to go ahead and do that. When I've given the opportunity, I will normally take a child with me, allow them to have that opportunity.
Good. Okay, fair enough.
I have a memory of our police chief, several police chiefs ago. He went out and threw the first pitch, and he didn't quite make it off the mound. And he
you don't want to be that guy.
Well, he was in full uniform with a revolver, and the reaction was not positive. So I feel like when I would do the same thing, I would not have the benefit.
You would not have the benefit of the respect, okay.
Of the uniform and the revolver. Right? So I'll just happily, facilitate a child to have that experience and just cheer for them.
Sit behind the home team dugout and let them see you there supporting the team. All right,
exactly.
Fair enough. While we're on the topic of sports, I saw somewhere that you have a plan to turn the old football stadium lands into housing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned a moment ago, where the Padres used to play is in the Mission Valley community of San Diego. It's right along our San Diego River. And it was a 133-acre asphalt paradise, right?
Right.
And so the old Qualcomm Stadium, or Jack Murphy Stadium, depending on how far back you go, is now gone. It's been replaced by Snapdragon Stadium, which is home to our women's professional soccer team, as well as the San Diego State Aztecs. But it is a much smaller footprint. And the rest of that footprint is now going to be used for an expansion of San Diego State University. So those 133 acres, now instead of being a parking lot, are going to be dorm rooms, apartments, classrooms, lab space, a 40-acre park open to the general public. It's an urban oasis, and it's underway now. The stadium is done. The park is now done. The dorms will start going up shortly. The other one, this is so good and we're so bullish on it that we're repeating the same thing at our sports arena, which is just west of there. It's about a 47-acre parking lot. We're going to build a new state-of-the-art sports arena to, God willing, host NBA or NHL. Okay. But we're also going to build 4,250 homes on the remainder of that site to do exactly what I just described for you that's happening at Petco Park. When you put these venues in the middle of communities and you build them and design them appropriately, you can create a world-class experience that people want to be a part of, both San Diegans and tourists. So we did it successfully in Petco. We're doing it right now at Snapdragon, and we'll do it again soon at the sports arena.
And housing seems to be one of the issues that you're really getting behind and trying to change. How much have you been able to accomplish, and what are your goals now?
So housing is the reason why I'm mayor. It's why I ran for mayor. It's why I do this job. I tell my constituents often, I'll pick up your garbage once a week in exchange for the opportunity to work on housing issues. Okay. And they've kindly taken me up on that offer.
I'm sure.
So quick story. When I was born in San Diego in the 1970s, we were building about 15,000 homes a year. At that time, San Diego was about 700,000 people. Fast forward to today, the city is 1.4 million people, and we have been building about 5,000 homes a year. So we've doubled in population, but reduced housing production by 2/3. Wow. That is a recipe for unaffordable housing, inability to buy a home, and rampant homelessness. That has to change. I've been mayor for a little over 3 years now. Last year, we permitted 10,000 new homes. So we've doubled our annual production, and we're working our way towards 15 again. If we can do that, we will no longer be one of the most unaffordable cities in our country, but we'll be one where we don't just have wealthy folks who can afford to live there and the poor folks who are trapped in our city. Instead, we'll have a vibrant working and middle class once again, and that's the goal I have for our city. Again, 10,000 a year is more than we've done in the past, but we need to be at 15, but I like the trend line we're on.
Has there been any pushback from the citizens about all this expanded housing?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
You remember why you're doing this. Typically the pushback are from folks that fear change. And I personally, I understand. I'm not a huge fan of change myself. I like my routine. I like my habits.
Nobody likes their apple cart upset.
Right.
Or their cheese moved. Whatever you want to use. Yeah.
But for those folks, I'll often ask them, your kids still living at home? They graduate from college and they're still in their childhood bedroom. Are you thinking that you may never see your grandkids because they're going to move away and you'll have to see them maybe a couple times a year max because they can't afford to live here? How do we as a city remain economically competitive if the talented people we're graduating from UC San Diego, SDSU, my alma mater of USD, can't afford to live here? That we hand them a diploma and then we show them the door because we're not willing to make space for them. How long will our economy thrive if that's what we're going to do?
And that just starts a downward spiral of brain drain and everything else.
Listen, I'm a third generation San Diegan. I know my hometown.
Okay.
We cannot get by just on our good looks. Yeah, we have great weather. We have incredible beaches. But if anything the pandemic has taught us, we can do our jobs from almost anywhere, many of us. And as soon as the major employers of some of these really incredible companies that are headquartered in San Diego decide that the talent's going somewhere else, they'll follow them. And folks are not asking for Taj Mahals to be built for them, right? They're just asking for rent that they can afford or the opportunity to actually buy a home and build wealth. So to your question, yeah, there are folks that are opposed to it or are very cranky about it. But what I know for sure is that there are more people who are impacted by our high housing costs who want a mayor who's going to champion and concern themselves with them. And I do. I consider them every single day, and every decision I make is like, is this going to make it more possible that folks can have a roof over their head at a price that they can afford? If the answer is yes, we're going to move forward with that. If the answer is no, we'll go try something else.
I'll give you some good news. One of my buddies was living in Washington, realized he could work from anywhere. He called he ex-Navy. Hi, Jeff. He said to his boss, "Can I live anywhere?" And he goes, "Well, I guess." He goes, "Good. I'm moving to San Diego." So
it's a man of great taste.
You picked up 2 residents, yes. And he's like, "Oh, you're going to come out here? We'll leave 10 blocks from the beach." I know that much of Southern California has a homeless crisis.
Yeah.
How does yours compare with other large Southern California cities, and what are you doing about it?
So my recent homeless count, we call it a point-in-time count, a census that's required annually by the federal government, showed about 6,000 homeless people in my city, about 10,000 in our county.
That's a lot of folks.
It is. Of that 6,000, about half are sheltered, so they're living in our shelter system. The other half are on the streets. So 3,000 people living outdoors in a city, state, and nation as wealthy as ours, it's unacceptable. What am I doing about it? Well, what I'm doing is increasing the amount of shelter in my city. When I took over as mayor, we had about 1,000 shelter beds. Today, we have over 2,000, and I believe we'll add another 1,200 this calendar year. We are innovating and trying things like safe parking, safe sleeping, and other proven efforts that can get people off the streets quickly, triage them, and then hopefully get them into permanent housing.
Safe parking.
Oh, sure. So these are typically the working poor. These are folks that can own a car, put gas in it, keep it insured, but can't afford a home.
And get to work.
Correct. And so they often are living in their cars. These are often service workers, low-wage workers, minimum wage workers, and they're needed to power the city. They're the people that run our city, right? They make it work. But, a one-bedroom apartment in my city is about $2,400, $2,500 a month. Yeah. That doesn't work for them. So they live in their cars. So what we do is you have a parking lot that's set aside. They're allowed to park there, generally overnight. Some of them are 24/7, but generally overnight. Those places have security, lighting, bathrooms, food. You have social workers and other folks there that can help address the issues. Okay, you obviously don't have enough of an income to live comfortably, but have you looked into low-income housing and energy assistance? Are you on the Section 8 waiting list? Like, what can we do to put you in a place where you don't have to live in your car? The program, that program I just described to you, has been operating in the city for less than 10 years. We've already served, I believe it's over 5,000 people, and it's sort of low-hanging fruit. These are people who typically, again, have jobs, have some level of income, have some ability. We can work with those folks and get them back on their feet. That's what safe parking helps us accomplish.
That is good government, and you are continuing it on, so that's good. I also noticed that you had some gun initiatives to help get guns off the street. That is a huge problem everywhere. It's been a long, long time, but there was a mass shooting in San Diego, in San Ysidro.
Yeah.
What can you accomplish as mayor?
A lot. We could do a lot more with state and federal help. And in California, we have a lot of help from our state legislature. Obviously, at the federal level, we have some challenges, but that hasn't stopped us from moving forward. So I like to think that San Diego is a leader on gun violence prevention, and I have the data to back it up. We lead the state in gun violence restraining orders. Our city attorney, Mara Elliott, has successfully issued more gun violence restraining orders in our city than the entire rest of the state of California. For your listeners who may not know what that is, these are folks who are gun owners, but who are involved in a domestic violence situation or having a mental health crisis, and really shouldn't have easy access to a gun. We go to court, we prove our point, a judge allows the GVRO be issued, and then we go and we collect the gun. It's not forever, but it does help to de-escalate situations. Another thing that we do are gun buyback programs. I just had one a couple weekends ago, very successful. We also passed a nation-leading ghost gun prohibition, and have a ghost gun unit that goes out and actively works these cases to get this stuff off the streets. The final data point that's worth noting is that San Diego is often considered the safest big city in America because we have the lowest homicide rate amongst the big cities.
I'm in New York. I thought we were.
Well, it's always how you want to look at it, which is why that point that I made. So in San Diego, I know you're joking, but this is serious stuff, and these are all connected.
Yes.
We generally average about 40 homicides a year. Now, for this mayor, 40 is way too many. But when you look at other big cities that are of comparable sizes that could have hundreds of people murdered each year, you see very quickly that our programs and our policies are working. And I credit a lot of our gun violence prevention interruption efforts with that lower homicide rate.
And I would like to also point out that being on the border with a low homicide rate means something.
I love that you make that connection, because exactly right. You wouldn't know that from looking at cable news. No. But that distinction of having a nation-leading low homicide rate while simultaneously being a border community shows you this has the two are not correlated.
Well, that all sounds like good government, but we are now going to get to the heart of good government. We're going to do that after this break. After you get done with this episode, hear more good government stories with our friends at How to Really Run a City. Former mayors Kasim Reed of Atlanta and Michael Nutter of Philadelphia, and their co-host, journalist and author Larry Platt, talk with guests and other mayors about how to really get stuff done in cities around the nation. Check them out where you're listening now or through their nonprofit news site, thephiladelphiacitizen.org/podcasts. Okay, so we have the good government questionnaire. We're going to get to your true desire and your true thoughts on government. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First question. From where you sit currently as mayor, define good government.
I think that is about delivering public services efficiently, effectively, and transparently.
That's it. Well, it's simple.
Absolutely it's simple. You know it when you see it. I know it when I see it.
Okay.
You also know it when you don't see it.
When you don't see it. Well, and how do you judge your success or lack thereof? How do you know if you're doing a good job?
Well, I can do a little better. I think the general public has something different.
Okay.
The way I phrase this, I'm big on paving roads. We got to pave the damn roads. That's just, after homelessness and housing production. That's kind of where my focus is.
The old story is, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. I want the pothole fixed.
Amen.
Yes.
So that's an adage that's fair. Another one that's also fair is that unless I'm paving the road in front of your house, you ain't paving the roads. So
right.
We define success. I define success as saying that when I took over as mayor, we were paving about 45 miles of roads a year. Unacceptable. We're going to do about 125 next year, and that's over the course of 4 year time frame. So we are amping it up. That's progress, right? So I think that's progress. However, again, if I haven't paved in front of your house yet,
right.
You're probably not thinking we're making progress. So my definition is there's data to back up whether or not we're making progress, even if maybe subjectively you don't feel that way.
All right. So if people feel like they're not getting good government, if they feel like the government's not receptive, if you're not doing a good job, what would you like them to do?
Get involved.
That's hard. I don't want to get involved. I'm busy. I have kids.
Listen, I'm doing it. And let me tell you, yes, this is now my profession, but that's not how I started.
Okay.
I started doing neighborhood watch in my neighborhood, right?
Really?
I started volunteering in the community. I got appointed to the city's housing commission because I was running my mouth about housing all the time. And it was like, well, put up or shut up. Go over here and do this volunteering. And I loved it. Yeah. And next thing you know, I'm running for city council and then I'm the mayor. But I guess my point is that you don't have to run for office to have an impact on good government. In fact, I had a colleague when I was on the city council who was like me. She was a neighborhood activist and she got on the city council and she actually felt she was more effective and more powerful as a community activist because she could do whatever she wanted, right? She, open government laws and all that kind of stuff. She didn't have to adhere to that. She had a singular focus that this was her issue. Now, when you're elected, you got to care about everything.
Everything, sure.
And so I guess it's a way of saying that anybody can do it at the level they're comfortable with. If you want to send a letter, that's being involved in government. You want to testify in front of your city council, that's being involved in government. You want to run for office, that is also being involved in government.
Okay. As an elected person in government, what would you like people who aren't in government to know about government and how it works?
I don't always feel like people really reflect correctly on the lack of resources. So what I mean to say is that, everything's a priority.
Sure.
But I don't think they always understand that we don't. That it is not for want of heart. That I would pave your road tomorrow if I could, but if I don't have the budget, if I don't have the staffing, contractors, I can't do it. And so it's not about the mayor doesn't like me or does no. I trust me. If I had a magic wand, I'd wave it. My patented line is this: my name is Todd, not God. I can't control all of it, but I promise you, no one will out hustle me. And I want every one of my constituents to know that when I see that pothole, I obsess about it until I can get it fixed. And it may take me longer than I'd like, but I promise you I'll get it done. But again, the issue is not that I didn't fix that pothole because I'm thrilled with potholes, far from. It's usually a resource question, but when I talk with folks, I don't think they always understand. It's not as simple as just saying, fix that. There's a lot else behind it. And it gets to the question of good government. Have we created systems that are intended to solve problems quickly? In the case of pothole repair, we can typically do it in a couple of days.
Right.
Or do we have a system like what immigration is, which is to say, go ahead and petition for immigration, but you may hear from us in a couple of decades. The difference between good government and bad government.
So this is a two-part question. First part is, what's the best part of your job?
Talking with people.
Yeah.
So I got my start in the county of San Diego. I was a social worker.
Okay.
And I loved it. But by the way, it's the same thing I do now. I meet with people every day.
You're still a social worker for the city?
Yeah, absolutely. People think, and I appreciate the chance to share this with your listeners, people think politicians, generally speaking, are attorneys. And that's a fair assumption.
There are a lot of them.
But the work of sitting with people and listening to their challenges and trying to connect them to resources to solve those challenges, that's also what I do. And I like the idea of a framework of a politician as a social worker better than one as a litigator, right? Because it's less about arguing, it's more about problem solving. So that's the orientation I bring to this work.
Were you a social worker?
I worked in child protective services for the county of San Diego. I worked in income maintenance, and so when I'm the son of a maid and a gardener, so I understand what a blue collar family in San Diego deals with. But I will tell you, I didn't realize how blessed I was until you're sitting across the table from families in crisis, with families with abused children, folks who literally have nothing. We often grew up with very little, didn't have a car, that kind of stuff. But we were rich compared to some of the people that I worked with at the county. And it's eye-opening and a reminder every day that the job that I do now, I think of people I worked with back in the 90s when I did that work. And I know better how challenging it is to make ends meet generally, but particularly in a community like San Diego that's so expensive.
And that's got to help when you're the mayor and you can call back to those experiences personally growing up, but also, talking to folks as a counselor, trying to help them get off, where they are and on social services.
Well, I think I would understand why people might look at me, they see the suit, they see the tie, the shiny shoes, they get an impression, but I'm never far from my memories of growing up or my memories from doing that job. And so it goes back to when you asked what's the best part of the job. I love talking with people and understanding what is their concern. I find people are often not their own best advocates, because of the trauma and the things that they experience. They often can't explain it in a way that's succinct and clear, but that's one of my value adds. Having done this work for so long, I understand you're mad about the pothole, but you're not really mad about the pothole. You're talking about the fact that flat tire you got because of the pothole has upended your household budget because you can't afford an inconvenience or an emergency like that. So it's something bigger than that. And that's what my training has taught me, and bringing that to politics, I think, is a good mindset. And I'll conclude with this because I want to make sure I know you have other questions. Remember that I became mayor of San Diego in December of 2020, which is to say I did the first 2 years on Zoom when I didn't get to interact with people. And so that has only reinforced for me how important it is to have that direct communication with the public. That, sometimes it can be painful, maybe it can be tedious, but you can't be an elected representative if you're not interacting with the people. And I missed that so much during the pandemic. Zoom's fine, but it's not the same as eyeball to eyeball, in person, body language reading, the kinds, again, those tells that I get that say, it's not really about that one thing that you're saying, it's really about all these other things.
And showing up in their neighborhood and showing up at their house.
Yes.
Right.
I love that part of the job.
So how's your garden? Do you do any gardening at home?
No, I do not. No. I live in downtown. I don't have a garden.
No, okay, all right.
I'm also not home much to tend to a garden.
So that's the best part. What's the hardest part of the job?
Well, I'll be honest. You have to campaign to do this work, right?
Okay.
A lot of young people are always like, well, how do you become the mayor? And my answer is you do the two things your mom told you never to do. Knock on a stranger's doors and ask strangers for money. It's not pleasant stuff. But, for me, I always weigh it, is this...
I've knocked on doors. It's kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah, actually, I'm Gladys Kravitz. I'm nosy. I'm all about. That's an interesting design choice. But it's hard. It can be hard, and particularly asking for money. Our culture is not into that.
And it's no
I don't
fun
like
when the
it.
door gets closed to your face 5 times in a row.
Yeah, all that stuff. But you weigh it against. If I continue doing this and I'm allowed to continue doing my job and I can make change on housing costs, homelessness, infrastructure, public safety, is it worth it? I tell you, David, every single day, it's always worth it.
So you're a newsmaker in San Diego. Where do you get your news from?
Like everybody, it's a very diverse thing now, right? Like, time was I was a CBS News guy. I watched it every day.
Good.
That would be my
Thank
thing.
you. I use ex-CBS News.
Okay. I love me some Dan Rather, all that stuff, even as a little boy.
My old boss, yes.
A Union Tribune, which is our local paper.
Do you still get home delivery?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good man.
But, I've augmented that now with, now it's easy to get New York Times, Washington Post, and put that a part of my daily diet.
Right.
But it's also is true that we have local blogs, local online only resources that tend to be quicker and a little bit more dynamic.
You haven't said podcast yet?
I do podcasts. So I listen to the Up First NPR every morning,
all right,
just to get caught up, while I'm working out and whatever else to be aware. But the point is, I know media is in a challenging spot in the moment, but I always find it's interesting because my diet is diversified tremendously. So it includes the paper, television, online, social media, podcasts, and that's a part. And I see it not just as an informed citizen, but as someone who does my job, right? I need to look for news to understand what's the city thinking and feeling right now? Where is my time and attention necessary? And that's why, again, about 3 papers a day, a couple of blogs, maybe a few podcasts, and hopefully I'm well enough informed to be able to answer whatever question a constituent or reporter throws at me.
Do you get questions thrown at you that you have no idea what they're talking about?
All the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
I will get back to you on that. My staff is going to look into that. Please call me tomorrow.
Listen, I don't know, but I will find out. Is always a good answer.
It is. So who's your political hero? Who inspired you to do this?
So the true answer to that is a woman named Susan Davis. She was my youth mentor as a kid. I met her through a nonprofit group called the Price Fellows. And she later went on to become a state legislator and a U.S. Congresswoman. I worked for her in her district office in San Diego for many years. She also was a social worker, and she kind of showed me that you may not be bombastic, you may not be the litigator or whatever, but you could still do this work, and you could do it. She was universally known as being nice. She's still with us. She retired from Congress about 4 years ago. But I met her when I was 14 years old. I learned the craft of public service from her. Okay. And I'm honored to carry on her tradition of being a pragmatic problem solver in politics.
Well, no one else has said Susan Davis, so there you go. Growing up, was this something you thought about, being the mayor or being president? Were you president of your high school class?
Of course I was.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Well, so the answer to your question is yes and no. Yes, because I was always interested in politics. I was the nerdy kid that would watch C-SPAN for fun. I would read the newspaper. I was 8, 9, 10 years old watching Dan Rather's at the 6 p.m. news, right? That was me. That was me.
All right.
So yes, and I ran for student government. I was student body president, all that kind of stuff. That's the yes part. The no part was that people like me didn't get this job when I was a kid. I am a gay man of color. And in 1980s, 1990s, San Diego, that wasn't an option. Oh, well, by the way, as a Democrat in San Diego, that also at that time was a little unusual.
Okay.
So, the world told me this wasn't for me. Like this wasn't a job I was allowed to have or would ever be entertained, right? Yeah. But the world changed around me. I had great mentors like Congresswoman Davis and other folks who encouraged me, put me in positions where I could be seen and allowed to develop the skill sets. And when the world changed, and frankly, when some laws and policies changed, I was able to run for office and be successful.
So yes and no. Okay, well that's great. All right, now I have been to San Diego a couple of times. Always had Mexican food. I'm coming. You're going to take me out. You're showing me the town. Where are we going? What are we having? What's the San Diego dish?
Well, what we're known for is fish tacos, right? Okay. But here's a fun fact. I don't like fish. So you're welcome to have one.
Neither do I.
Okay. Good. All right, we'll be fine. I would take you to probably Tacos El Gordo. Okay. Sort of authentic Tijuana street style tacos that are available in San Diego.
Right.
They're quick, they're cheap, they're so delicious. You go there, there's a line.
Okay.
Mayor doesn't cut the line. I'm not that kind of mayor.
Okay, good.
But it's part of the experience too, right? Sure. You want to rub elbows with people, hear what's on their mind. So I would take you to Tacos El Gordo and the Gas Lamp. We can eat there. And then we can wander down the Gas Lamp further and check out some of the other bars and other good times that are there. But I would.
So just the Gas Lamp, I'll describe it briefly. It's downtown San Diego. It is sort of historic. It looks old. It's very pretty. It's not something you expect in a downtown because it's very well preserved and it's just nightlife central. It
is all exactly.
Have I described it correctly?
It is a great description. It's the historic heart of San Diego.
Back to the U.S. Grand Hotel.
Back to the U.S. Grand. That'd be a good place to have a final drink at the Grand Grill.
Absolutely.
And we probably have to throw some craft beer in there somewhere because we do pride ourselves on being the craft beer capital of America.
Good. All right. Well, I am ready. I am ready to come back. This is the Good Government Show. We like to bring it back to good government. Give me an example of a good government project that you've created that you're especially proud of.
Well, there's a lot, but I think of, I started working for the Congresswoman, and I remember all those years ago taking constituent complaints back in the day. That generally involved like a clipboard and the ability to reach me between 9 and 5 on Monday through Friday, what have you. We at the city, through our Chief Innovation Officer and our Performance Analytics Department, good government, again, going back to efficient, effective, transparent, we have established as a Get It Done app. And so you as a citizen can download that app onto your phone. You don't have to get me 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. You can, the second you see graffiti, a pothole, a trip hazard, whatever the case may be, report it directly to the city. You bypass the politician. You don't need to go to me. It goes right to the person that works on that issue, and they get it done faster.
Do you check it yourself too sometimes?
I report on it all the time myself. What I love about it, though,
do they say, oh, damn, it's the mayor again?
Well, you know what it does. Some people use my name when they submit their own reports, but I'm not mad about that. If it's fixed a pothole, I'm good.
Okay.
But what I love about it is that it empowers an individual to solve a problem, and they can track it through the whole process. So you can see submit it, being worked on, resolution. We have employees that say take it for a pothole. You send through your phone a photo of the pothole. We'll send you back a photo of the pothole filled.
Oh.
So
now that's good government
that
we can see.
It got done, right?
Yes.
How many times you're like, well, I don't know what came of that. I told the mayor about it. Hopefully he did something.
Yeah.
No. You can track it through its whole process, see who did it, when it was done. It's transparent, it's efficient, it's effective, it's good government. It's our Get It Done app, available on the Apple Store and on Google Play.
Everywhere you are. Mayor Todd Gloria of San Diego, California, one of the beautiful spots in America. It was great having you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming, and pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you. Where do you get your news from? Where do you get your state and local government news from? Because that's getting harder and harder. And it's essential to stay updated with your community. And it's becoming increasingly important to know what's going on in other cities and states, because they're likely facing challenges that you're grappling with too, or you're going to face eventually. That's why we'd like to welcome our new partner, Route 50, to the show. Route 50 is a leading online publication covering state and local governments across the country. They've written about states protecting themselves against the rise in cyber attacks, counties using AI to better support citizen services, local responses to crumbling infrastructure and extreme weather, and much, much more. There's a lot there. It's a one-stop shop for issues affecting state and local governments and their residents. That's you. That's all of us. Do yourself a favor and go to route50.com to see the topics and solutions they cover and learn what other people in government are doing. They also deliver a daily newsletter called Route 50 Today. I see it in my inbox every morning. I check it out, and you should too. Thanks again, Route 50. We're excited to have you on board and being a partner here at the Good Government Show. What is it that county government does? That's the question county commissioners get asked the most, and the simple answer is everything. On the Good Government Show, we're so lucky to have talked with so many county commissioners and other county officials that have shown us how effective county government is. County government dates back to, get this, 1634, making it one of the oldest forms of government in the United States. Think about it. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water, sewers, and most of the county, those services are maintained by the county. That's county government. The National Association of Counties represents all 3,069 counties across the USA. NACo helps county government work better together through things like sharing best practices. When county government works well, that's just good government. We can't get by on our good looks, said Mayor Gloria. And first, let me say San Diego is a very good-looking city. But the point the mayor made is there's work to be done. Housing, homelessness, gun violence prevention are all good government projects he's working on. It all takes time, the mayor says. My name is Todd, not God. That's what he said. Another real story in San Diego is immigration. With Mexico as a neighbor, Mayor Gloria sees Mexico as a very good neighbor and part of what makes his city great. I've been there. I couldn't agree with him more. That's our show. Thanks for listening. Please like us and share us with your friends and review us right here where you're listening now. And check out our website, goodgovernmentshow.com, for extras. Join us again for another episode right here. I'm Dave Martin, and this is The Good Government Show. The Good Government Show is a Valley Park production. Jim Ludlow, Dave Martin, that's me, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our show is edited and produced by Jason Stershic. Please subscribe, then share us, and like us and review us. That's the best way to make sure we're able to keep telling these stories of our government working for all of us. Then listen to the next episode of The Good Government Show.